Story number 1. About a month ago, something unsettling happened to my friend Ethan and me. We both reside just outside Las Vegas, and on this particular night, we decided to embark on a drive into the desert. The night sky was expected to be exceptionally clear, offering us a chance to capture some captivating starry photographs. Plus, it would provide an opportunity for Ethan's dog to enjoy some outdoor time away from the house. So, there we were, Ethan, his dog, and myself, driving into the heart of the desert. We spent roughly an hour navigating the barren landscape until we stumbled upon a small overlook with a modest parking area. As it was nighttime and in the middle of the desert, it was evident that there were no other vehicles around except for ours. We set up our equipment and began taking pictures of the starry sky, losing ourselves in the beauty of the night. After a couple of hours, we decided to call it a night. Ethan informed me that he needed to relieve himself and instructed me to wait in the car with his dog. I complied, getting into the car and instinctively locking the doors, though I couldn't recall why. Perhaps it was just a force of habit. I was engrossed in my phone when I suddenly heard the unmistakable sound of gravel crunching underfoot outside the car. It was as if someone was approaching. At first, I assumed it was Ethan, but it had barely been 20 seconds since he left. That's when Ethan's dog went berserk, barking and growling furiously. I glanced out the window, trying to discern what had triggered the dog's reaction. It became apparent that it wasn't Ethan, it was some random stranger. Just as I spotted the man, he sprinted towards the car. With alarming speed, he reached out to put his hand through a partially open window, presumably attempting to unlock the door. In a desperate move, Ethan's dog clamped onto the intruder's hand, prompting a scream of pain from the man. By this point, Ethan had heard the commotion and was rushing back to the car. Somehow, the man managed to wrest his hand free from the dog's grip and bolted into the darkness of the desert. Both Ethan and I instinctively gave chase, but we quickly realized it was futile. Instead, we decided to call the police to report the unsettling encounter. When the authorities arrived, they instructed us to avoid the area for the remainder of the night but offered little in the way of information or resolution. To this day, the identity and intentions of that mysterious intruder remain a mystery. It's baffling how someone appeared out of nowhere in the middle of the desert, miles from civilization. Ethan and I made an unspoken pact never to discuss the incident again, as it was a bizarre and inexplicable ordeal that still haunts our thoughts. Story number 2. When I was 15, my younger brother and I found ourselves home alone one evening. He was 13 at the time, and it seemed our parents believed we were old enough to fend for ourselves while they went out for the night. We both relished the freedom, spending most of our time in the basement, engrossed in playing Wii games and indulging in frozen pizza. One night, etched vividly in my memory, we were engrossed in a game of Mario Kart, using those steering wheel attachments for the Wii remotes. Back then, most households had home phones, and a strict rule imposed by our parents was that we had to keep one of the phones near us at all times in case they called. After about an hour of being home alone, the phone suddenly rang. I glanced at the caller ID, and it displayed the number of one of my friends from school. I answered the call, and we began chatting. However, within mere seconds, I noticed heavy breathing on the other end of the line. "Dude, is that you?" I inquired, perplexed. I explained to my friend that it wasn't me, and the eerie breathing persisted. Eventually, my friend decided to call me back later, as the unsettling noise was beginning to unsettle him. After I hung up, I shared what had happened with my brother. His face turned pale, and he asked me if it was possible that the sound originated from our phone line since we had phones on every level of the house. The idea horrified me. It did make sense, but it also meant that someone else might be in the house, having picked up one of the phones either upstairs or on the ground floor. Both of us grew paranoid, our imaginations running wild. To quell our fears, we decided to search the entire house. We started by checking the ground floor, but found nothing amiss. We then ventured up to the next floor, and what we encountered there left us utterly speechless. In one of the rooms, we spotted a man, at least in his 60s, with his back turned to us, hunched over the table where the phone was placed. Our instincts kicked in, and without exchanging a word, my brother and I turned and bolted out of the house through the front door. We rushed to a neighbor's house, pounding on the door and shouting for help. They promptly opened the door, and we recounted the chilling scene we had just witnessed. Without hesitation, they called the police and then our parents. When the police arrived and searched the house, they discovered the man hiding in a closet not far from where we had seen him. He was promptly arrested, but beyond that, my brother and I were left in the dark about the details of the situation, a mystery that continues to haunt us to this day.